Sanbonan, Dumelang, good morning, Dimacheroni. It's still early in the morning, we must all be lively. Dimacheroni. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Papama Chisikawe, and I'll be directing the program today. I'm excited and honored. Thank you so much, DVC, for allowing me to direct this program. Dr. Mpidi, thank you so much. Welcome to the Tshwane University of Technology. It is such an honor to be here today to be celebrating World Intellectual Property Day 2023. Welcome, a round of applause to all of you. Today we are celebrating, I think it's important for me to highlight that, African ideas by African people, for African people. Isn't that beautiful? Absolutely. And you'll understand why the Tshwane University of Technology is a university that makes knowledge work. With all the presentations that we're going to have today, you'll understand why we emphasize on that slogan. You know, it's our daily bread every day. We are a university that makes knowledge work. And I'm excited that some of our students are also here, you know, attending this event to witness the great work that some of our alumni actually are doing out there and representing us well here at the Tshwane University of Technology. Without any waste of time, let me invite Dr. Vatiswa Papu Zamkaka. She's the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research, Innovation, and Engagement here at the Tshwane University of Technology. She is a force to be reckoned with, very progressive woman, and very relevant for this occasion today that we are celebrating. We're also celebrating women ideas, that are making an impact in our society, positive impact in our society. Without any waste of time, let's welcome Dr. Vatiswa Papu Zamkaka.
Thank you so much, Program Director. Wow, it is so much heartwarming to see the room full, knowing that it's a long weekend starting from end of today. It is really heartwarming, I must say. I thought there was something about the fashion show, and I don't see any fashionista. Can they show, can they show themselves up? Yeah, those ones were in the same WhatsApp group. Program Director, Ms. Papama Chisikawe, the TUT spokesperson. Guest speaker, Ms. Titiro Mashiho, the founder and Chief Executive Officer, Serati Ltd. Our distinguished speakers, Ms. Yogani Reddy, Senior Associate, Spoor and Fisher, Ms. Tabang Khadebe, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Tabang R Photography, Ms. Offensi and Kumise, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Offensi Defaced Dresser, TUT staff, to the Tshwane University of Technology's 2023 World Intellectual Property Day celebration. World IP Day is observed annually on the 26th of April. The event was established by the World Intellectual Property Organization, in short, WIPO, in 2000 to raise awareness of how patents, copyright, trademarks, and design impact on daily life, and to celebrate creativity and the contribution made by creators and innovators to the development of economies and societies across the globe. The 26th of April was chosen as the date for World Intellectual Property Day because it coincides with the date on which the convention establishing the World Intellectual Property Organization entered into force in 1970. World Intellectual Property Day is WIPO's largest intellectual property public outreach campaign. One may ask, though, why the focus on women? Research by the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor indicates that women are 5% more likely to innovate than men. I thought women would clap hands. With this fact in mind, their ability to actively innovate remains hindered and delayed at various levels, individually, organizationally, and systemically. At personal level, women are relegated to family caregivers. Systematically and organizationally, there are elements of inequality compared to their male counterparts. To add fuel to the already roaring fire, the World Bank 2019 highlights that women spend twice as much time caring for children and the elderly. The research indicates that women entrepreneurs spend at least 10% less time at work and can take up to 3 times as long to complete the same task their male counterparts could complete. The odds are already against women in the innovation space, ladies and gentlemen, and urgent transformation is therefore required. Consequently, the theme for 2023 is Women and IP, accelerate and are playing a massive role in our economy through driving scientific breakthroughs, by setting new creative trends across all borders, and by developing business and transforming the world. I thought the women would clap hands. The drive to encourage women to use the IP system will lead to diversity of new ideas and innovations. Women need to be encouraged to optimally tap into innovation space. As we strive to achieve transformation in the innovation space, it is heartening to note that the women representation and active participation in the IP and technology transfer space is gradually increasing. According to the South African National Survey of Intellectual Property and Technology Transfer 2018, female representation remained dominant at 64% of higher education institutions and 68.2% of science councils, offices of technology transfer teams. Today's event will unleash the experiences of women with regard to innovation and creativity, the importance of intellectual property and how IP has accelerated different businesses and enabled them to flourish. Indicative of women's proclivity towards social value-adding activities is that women's businesses tend to cluster in care and service type sectors, namely hospitality and retail. In sub-Saharan Africa, women entrepreneurs account for up to 75% in these sectors. This is according to Fossenbeck in 2013. However, we need to create an enabling environment where moving into traditionally male-dominated business sectors such as construction, manufacturing, ICT, and business services. This will enable women's active participation in the fourth industrial revolution. Today's speakers are powerful women who are founders and CEOs of companies. The event will conclude with a fashion show to provide an opportunity for designers from TUT's Faculty of Arts and Design to show off a particular creativity, aesthetic, and innovation. Our People's University, our own students. We're truly looking forward to that as we are moving our university from good to great. We are so resolute about that. If you're a student at TUT today, just know that we are so determined, we are fearless, we are so resolute in producing future-ready graduates. are looking forward to very progressive deliberations today, ladies and gentlemen. Kufaya yonke into zakuthi. Wathinta abafazi, wathinta imbokodo. To whom much is given, much is expected. Amaqobokazana ke ngalala endleleni ngabe kunyembela kuyo.
Round of applause once again for Dr. Vatiswa Papu Zamkaka. She is the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research, Innovation and Engagement here at the Tshwane University of Technology. Told you, very progressive, eh? Absolutely. And now I'd like to invite Ms. Ditiro Mashiko. She's the founder and chief executive officer for Sirati Ltd. And she's going to speak on innovation, creativity, and the gender gap. And I'd like to just a little bit introduce, give you some background on Ms. Ditiro. Ms. Ditiro Mashiko studied fashion design in 2014, followed by textile design and technology in 2016, and here at the Tshwane University of Technology, and currently holds an advanced diploma in fine and applied arts. She graduated yesterday, right? Yes, definitely. She's specializing in textiles and is studying towards a postgraduate diploma in fine and applied arts, once again here at the Tshwane University of Technology. She established a brand, Sirati Ltd, in 2014, a high-craft clothing and textile design company. Ditiro is a design indaba alumni and curator of the class of 2022 Emerging Creative Festival. She's passionate about the business of design. In her own words, she says, "I believe that the youth in the fashion, art, and the design spaces have a lot to contribute to the development of our country." From 2017 to 2022, she facilitated skills and training classes at the Baviensport Correctional Center as part of the Arts Access Program, where she trains juvenile boys how to sew and basic business skills. Ditiro received a special grant awarded from President Cyril Ramaphosa and Minister Nathi Mthethwa to design a choir uniform for the Grammy Award-winning Soweto Gospel Choir. Round of applause for that. Ditiro has a collab collection that was launched in 2021 with the MRP Home, that's Mr. Price Home. The range was inspired by the heirloom millet seed and woven basket, both objects being passed down from generation to generation as symbols of hope and a new life. Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause to Ms. Ditiro Mashiko as she gives her presentation.
Thank you, Papama, for that warm welcome. Good morning to all the esteemed guests here this morning. Happy World Intellectual Property Day to you all. Thank you to the Office of the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Research, Innovation and Engagement for this opportunity to speak on the topic of innovation, creativity, and the gender gap. I am, thank you for that introduction, Ditiro Mashiko. I am a fashion and textile designer based here in the city of Tshwane. Sirati Ltd is a high-craft textile and fashion design business established in 2014. A short background into this business. When I was studying my third year at the Faculty of Design at the Tshwane University of Technology, I had a very interesting dream. There was this majestic woman who came up to me while I was sleeping, and she said to me, "Tsura." In that moment, I knew very well that I was called to create a brand that would speak to the identity of African women, specifically in the space of reinterpreting our context and putting it out into the global narrative. We create uniquely African-inspired fashion and soft interior products and surface patterns at Sirati Ltd. I am a TUT alumni, having completed a national diploma in fashion and then a national diploma in textile design. I am currently back in the trenches to complete a postgraduate diploma in fine and applied arts, specializing in fiber art and printmaking. I'm invested in innovation and creativity as both a budding researcher in the space of African design and as a practicing artist. My first encounter with the understanding of intellectual property was in grade 1 in 1997. I sat next to a young lady by the name of Khonzi. We had been given a coloring assignment where we were expected to use an assortment of colors to creatively bring a drawing to life. And most importantly, color inside the lines. I considered myself an expert in this space because my mother had started me off very early with coloring books, and so I knew that my design principles of shading, outlining, and even knowing that grass is green and the sky is blue would work amply in this space. Halfway through the class, I was called out for a dentist appointment. So I abandoned my artwork and under the careful supervision of my then teacher, Mrs. Ruas. When I returned, my Claude Monet art piece looked more like a Jackson Pollock. If you know what a Jackson Pollock is and a Monet piece looks like, it's a very big difference, very, very big difference. Stylistically, it was probably brilliant. However, this was not my artwork, as I remembered it. I suspected Khonzi, but because I had not written my name on the artwork, like Ms. Ruas had instructed us, I could not lay claim to this artwork having been stolen. My artwork was gone. That day, I learned a very valuable lesson about signing artwork, and later on in university, the importance of a date being added to this as a form of safeguarding intellectual property in the arts. This one that we are all affiliated to. I only knew once I had completed my studies that the intellectual property generated in my time of study, meaning Serati included, partially belongs to the institution. As a designer, in my career, I have signed a non-disclosure. In my career, I have signed contracts such as a non-disclosure agreement, whereas as a participant in particular competitions, I was required to not disclose to the public the marketing plans of the specific organizations pertaining to my work. In my work with Mr. Price Home, I was also strictly warned against sharing any information with any competing companies on where specific products were being manufactured. And in a current project, I am required to not disclose anything at all until the paint is dry and the check clears. This means for creatives that organizations, once you become an established designer or artist, there will be contracts that you will sign. Some of them, like a non-disclosure, will protect both you, your intellectual property, and the intellectual property of the company that you'll be serving. Now put yourself in the space where you are the actual institution that needs to be protected. You would not create or employ someone under the guise of you won't sell my work and not know that 10 years down the line, that very same artwork that you had somehow generated with them in that space was being sold to the highest bidder. So these kind of contracts protect both the artists and the institution. In the beginning, I was generally very wary to sign because of popular music. I think there was a song that said, it might have been Kendrick Lamar, that says, "Don't sign." I think that particular song relates to the music industry and the kind of dynamics that play out in that space. Artists have historically lost their creative IP, their identities, their names in signing some of these contracts. And fortunately, being in the South African context, that means that we are protected by different institutions. We are not like the Americans. I had also heard of scary stories being told about artists losing their rights to their artwork. But in South Africa, we have access to multiple legal platforms that assist in demystifying some of these concepts. The value I have taken away from being a partaker in these agreements is that legal frameworks are not there to limit creativity, but rather to help empower us to dream bigger. Women are not always represented in these spaces, not always well represented in these spaces. But with the rise of female artists and designers and lawyers in the humanities, I have only ever one concern, or two rather, that why do we as women not take full ownership of our creative real estate? Intellectual property is very much like a home or a space that you consume. You will not allow a person to come into a space, your personal space, freely come in, trample on with dirty feet, or live rent-free even in your space. You will always try to first safeguard the gate. You will create some kind of fence around it, and then you will have walls that go up and doors that lock, windows also. So I believe that women should also create or see themselves in the space where you're creating these realms of protected IP for your creative practices and your creative intellect. It's very important because, like Vice said, that women are considered to be generally very creative. We are ingenious. My great-grandmother apparently could cook almost anything with cabbage and meat and cauliflower and I don't know what else. But that in itself is ingenious. There are recipes that go into cookbooks. Our black women from home generally don't have cookbooks. We don't document our practices. That needs to change. I believe it is. Then the next concern for me was, why is it that we do not see as many black women represented in the top tiers of African design IP spaces? Those of you who know designers like Maxosa will know that Maxosa was being plagiarized at some point in the last decade. And he was very intentional in creating the walls, the gates, the windows, putting ADT in, so that as we speak, that any product of his that is found on the black market can be quickly removed. We don't want to find ourselves in a global market where we continue to be appropriated or stolen from under the guise of inspired by Africa, knowing very well that we own this IP. Thank you.
Wow. Round of applause once again for... It's quite impressive to see young black women, creating for us and for generations to come. That's a legacy on its own. Round of applause for her once again. The message is let's all take full ownership of our intellectual space. So we thank you so much. And this is what I meant when I said the Tshwane University of Technology is a university that makes knowledge work. You can tell from the impact that Ms. Mashego is making in the industry and beyond the African borders. She's a force to be reckoned with. Thank you so much. We thank God for you. Without any waste of time, I'd like to invite Ms. Yogani Reddy. She's a senior associate at Spoor and Fisher. She'll be speaking about the importance of intellectual property, how IP rights accelerate innovation and creativity. I'd like to introduce her formally with a BSc Chem Engineering and LLB cum laude degrees. Round of applause for that. Yeah. She's an attorney of the High Court of South Africa. Yogani's experience includes domestic and international patent matters, including the preparation and prosecution of patent applications. She specializes in chemical, pharmaceutical, petrochemical, agrochemical, and metallurgical fields. Yogani also has experience in subject matter prior art searches, including the analysis and drafting of search reports. A round of applause to Ms. Yogani. You're welcome.
Hi, everyone. So as you know, my name is Yogini Reddy. I'm a senior patent attorney at Spoor & Fisher. So my talk for today, just give me 1 second. The slides are not showing properly on the screen. Okay, so my talk for today is all about intellectual property and the rights associated with it and how it helps to create innovation and also foster creativity. So the agenda for the talk will be, is it displaying? Oh, okay, great. So the agenda today is going to be what is intellectual property? We're going to go into the relevance of IP as well as the different types of intellectual property that you get, the nature and the importance of intellectual property, and then we're going to just go a little bit deeper into patents, registered designs, copyright, and trademarks. So what is intellectual property? So it's creations made by the human mind. And with it, there's certain rights that accompany it. So with different creations, you get different forms of rights. And intellectual property is a general term that's been used to describe the different forms of creations that have been made by the human mind. So the relevance of intellectual property. So you have a good idea. You want to stop others from using your good idea. You want to monopolize it. You want to get economic value from it. And you want to get that competitive edge in the market. So how would you do that? That's where intellectual property comes into play, because you have the rights associated with it. But if you think it's not necessary to go the intellectual property route and get rights and get protection, but remember, there's billions and billions of people out there. Somebody is going to create something similar or exactly the same. And we find that very common in intellectual property. Somebody comes to us with an idea. We do research, we search it to see if it's really new, and we find that it's already been done before. And it's quite often that this happens. So that's why intellectual property is actually very important. So you have your idea, stop, think, what can I get protected from it? And then protect it. So the different types of intellectual property you get, which depending on your creation, you get patents, registered designs, copyright, trademarks, plant breeders' rights, trade secrets, and know-how. So there's quite a diverse range of intellectual property protection that you can get. So the nature and importance of intellectual property rights. So as we know, the human mind is very, very advanced. We can create, we can innovate. There's a lot of things that we do. And with it, the concepts we create initially are intangible, but thereafter we reduce it to tangible products. And as such, you have the rights that accompany this. And with these rights, they are separate and independent from the creator, which means that you can actually transfer it. You can abandon it, you can license it, you can assign it. And being tangible products, you'll be able to commercialize it. And as I said earlier, you want to gain economic value from it. So that's why intellectual property is so important. You need those rights in order to use it. So just going into a bit more detail, as I mentioned earlier, about patents. So patent is a statutory monopoly right that you get for your invention. So basically, you have a 20-year term protection for when you file your patent application. And it basically allows you to prevent others from exploiting your invention. And in turn, the government gives you this 20-term period for you to monopolize it, but you need to describe your invention in detail, such that when your 20 terms expires, the public is allowed to exploit the invention. And generally, when you find with inventions, they evolve, technology evolves. So normally the 20 years, you normally find that it's sufficient to actually monopolize it and get economic value from it, which is a fair trade. So when we come to what can be protected by a patent. So in the Patents Act, there's certain things specifically excluding patentability. But things that could be protected by a patent can be, for example, a device. So a device could be like an engine that could be protected. You have a machine. We could have a machine, for example, that binds books. You could have composition of matter that could be related to pharmaceutical compositions that's been created quite often. You could have methods. So methods would involve a method of manufacturing or method of putting something together. Processor is also similar to methods, and it could be a process of manufacture, a process of manufacturing vehicles in a unique way. Just to go one step back, what can be patent protected is anything that solves a technical problem in a novel and non-obvious way. And I will discuss what those means later in the slides. So what is excluded from patentability? So this is specifically mentioned in the Patents Act. So we have a discovery, a scientific theory, a mathematical method. These are not regarded as an invention because they exist in nature already. So someone simply discovered it. So gravity, somebody discovered gravity, they didn't create gravity. So that's not a form of protection. And then we have literary, dramatic, musical, or artistic work or aesthetic creations. Presentation of information are also covered by the Copyright Act. So it's not covered by patents because of the Copyright Act. And then you have a scheme, a rule, or method for mental act, game, or doing business. Now this is more on the fact that it happens in the mind. So you can't really sue someone for something that they did in the mind. So that's why there's not formal protection. And then the last one is a program for a computer. You can see that's in red. Because this is a tricky one. So the software code itself is not protected by a patent because it's copyright protected. But the underlying methods can be. And that is, for example, your technical problem is to increase the speed of a computer. So you can define it in certain ways to get protection for that without actually referring to the actual code. So the basic requirements for patentability is defined in terms of Section 25(1) of the Patents Act. So the invention must be new. It must be novel. That means it mustn't be disclosed anywhere in the world in any form. So that can be in writing, it can be verbally. Even the fact that you disclose your own invention to someone in the public, you destroy your own novelty. And then you have the invention must involve an inventive step. We say it mustn't be obvious to what's already existing in the art. So it must take a step forward to what's already existing, or there must be some advantage or an unexpected result that your invention has that to those skilled in the art would not have foreseen. And then the last one is that the invention must be capable of being used or applied in trade or industry and agriculture. And generally, most inventions are. The grant in effect of a patent. So once you get your granted patent, remember I said earlier it's 20 years. From the date of filing your complete application at the patent office. And what rights accompany it? So you have the right to exclude others from actually making, using, exercising, disposing of, offering to dispose of, and importing the invention into South Africa. The scope of protection. So patents are territorial. So if you want to get protection in South Africa, you file in South Africa. If you want to get protection in America, you file in America. But if you do not file a patent application in Australia, you do not get protection in Australia. So anybody can use your invention in Australia freely. So you would think, so could there be a worldwide patent that covers all the countries? Simple answer is no. Why? Because each country have different laws. We all know that. They all have different laws, so they apply different things. So in one country, methods of treatments are allowable. In certain countries, it's not. So South Africa, methods of treatments is not. So there's different laws, so you can't do that. So then the next question would be is, why don't we file patent applications in all the countries? Well, I'm sure you already know the answer to that. It's quite expensive. And it's not worthwhile. Because some of the countries, the patent systems are not well developed. So meaning that it's difficult to sue someone for infringement, and sometimes it's just not worthwhile. So basically, you need to at the start, when you get your invention, you need to assess certain things like the market in the particular country you want to file into, whether you have partnerships there, whether you want to license it. So there's things to consider to help you decide in which countries you actually want to file into. So we have what we call a supranational processes. So we have the international route and the European route. So the international route is governed by the Patent Cooperative Treaty, and the European route is the European Patent Convention. So basically what this entails is that you file a single patent application in the international route. It remains an application forever. Okay, it never ever gets granted. And then it has advantages. Because remember earlier I mentioned there's certain requirements of novelty and inventiveness. So you get an examination report by a qualified examiner that tells you, okay, your invention is novel and inventive. And by having this information, you can actually say, okay, I want to proceed in the countries of interest that you want to file into. But once you file in those countries, remember it goes through another examination process. Because remember, as I said, the laws in every country is different. Okay. So that's the big bonus, is you get the examination report. And with the European route, you file a single application as well. But here, the patent gets granted, but here you need to file in which of the European countries that you are interested in. And once it's filed in those European countries, that basically means it's already granted. It doesn't go through another examination process. And we call them national patents is just because the form of route that's been taken. So just an example of possible patents that regards to these three different industries. For the fashion industry, we have the Nike Flyknit technology. It's basically the fabric on top of the Nike shoe. So it's lightweight, it supports, its breathability, and it fits your feet like a sock. So that's the type of technology that you could get a patent for. And then you can have different types of materials that have water repellent features, or it can be fire retardant, or it can be wrinkle proof. So those are examples. And in the photography industry, it could be the development of the camera itself. With Canon filed a new sensor design, which helps to with the quality of motion. So anything that is in motion, its quality is greater. The clarity is better. For the makeup industry, we have the Beauty Blender's makeup sponge container. So essentially the idea behind this is that once you use your makeup, your sponge, you clean it, it's wet. So especially for traveling purposes, instead of pre-drying it before you travel, they designed this container in which you can put your sponge into. Okay, so those are examples. So now let's move on to designs. So a design is a pattern, shape, configuration, and or ornamentation to which is applied to an article. So in South Africa, we have two types of designs, aesthetic and functional design. So an aesthetic design is judged solely by the eye. So it's the appearance of something. Functional design, it looks in that particular way because of the way it functions. So if it functions in a different way, it'll look a different way. And I'll show you some examples later. So what are the requirements for filing a design application? So for aesthetic design, it must be new, it must be original. For functional design, it must be new and not commonplace. So not commonplace means that it wouldn't excite, if it didn't excite a person in that art. That's basically what it means. It's a bit difficult with designs because there's not a lot of information about the requirements in detail. But generally, those, for now, those are what we understand. Okay. So the novelty aspect of it, patents was absolute novelty. You couldn't disclose it anywhere at any time, even your own disclosure. With the designs, it's slightly different. So with the designs, basically, if you disclose your invention, your design, sorry, we call it you released it to the public. So you have a release date. But you have within 6 months from the release date to actually file your designs. And with designs, there's also classes. So when you file your design, you need to file it in a specific class that you are applying for. So there's 32 classes, and the classes could be, example, you file in a design for something in clothes, or it could be toys, or it could be vehicles, or it could be cosmetics. So there's defined classes. So once you get a registered design, once it's granted, it gives you the right to exclude others from making, using, exercising, disposing of, or importing any article, remember, in the specific class that it was filed into, of an article that is exactly the same or not substantially different from the registered design. That's why your design classes at the start is important when you're filing designs. So the term of protection for aesthetic design is 15 years, and for a functional design is 10 years. So the examples that are promised, so for aesthetic design, you will see that a boot is class 2 articles of clothing. For a functional design, it's a key. A key has its function, and that's why it looks in a certain way. Types of design relating to 3 industries. So for the fashion industry, for example, you could file a design protection for a dress or a jacket. It would be the aesthetic design of it, the look of it. For photography, it could be a new camera mount design, or it could be a new camera itself that looks different. Remember, it all provided that it fulfills the requirements for registrability. And then for a makeup, you can have the makeup brush or a makeup palette container. Remember, it's all about the looks. And then we have copyright. So copyright relates to works which is defined in the Copyright Act. So you have literary works, which is your novels, your poems, your articles. You have musical works like your song lyrics. You have artistic works, which is paintings, sculptures, drawings. You have cinematic films, self-explanatory. You have sound recordings, which is your music, or it could be a recording of speeches. Broadcasts, which is television and radio broadcasting. Program carrying signals, it's basically signals that carry program through the satellite. Published editions, normal publications of books, for example. Computer programs, this is where it comes into play. The software codes are protected under copyright. So, there is no prescribed formalities to get protection for copyright. So it automatically exists when the work is original. So that means when you put your own sweat and tears into it, you haven't copied it from anyone else, so it's your experience as well. It's reduced to material form, so it must be in a physical form. And the author must be a qualified person. That simply means you need to be a citizen of South Africa or you're a resident in South Africa. And publication. So even though it's in material form, you still need to publish it, so it's out to the public. So who is the owner of the copyright? So in the first instance, it's normally the person who makes or creates the work is the copyright owner, which is the author. But there are exceptions to it. So you have the employer under the contract of service, which will have a clause in it stating that you assign all your rights over to the employer. Then you have commission work, which I mean most of us would know, photographs, portraits, films. Then you also have the state. If you do work for the state, which is under the direction or control, it belongs to the state. And for computer programs, if the person that exercises control over the entire process of writing the computer program, including the source code and object code, they are the owner of it, even though you are the author. So we come to the duration of copyright. So there's three different types of durations for the different categories. So for literary or musical works or artistic works other than photographs, it's the life of the author and 50 years from the end of the year in which the author dies. If it's relating to unpublished works, the term is 50 years from the first publication. For cinematic films, photos, and computer programs, it's 50 years from the end of the year in which the work is made available to the public or first published with the consent of the owner of the copyright. Then we have sound recordings and published editions. It's 50 years from the end of the year which the work is first published. So what rights accompany copyright? So the owner is allowed to exclude others from reproducing the work in any manner, to broadcast the work, to make an adaptation of the work, to perform the work publicly, and to publish the work. But it doesn't allow for reverse engineering. So that's a big one in copyright. It's not covered. And it's interesting because when a work is copied, you need to prove that it's copied from someone. So that's why your publications are important. You write the dates, you keep a record. So it's quite tricky, and if you the more evidence you have, the more records you have, the better for you. Okay. So we have types of copyright in the three industries. For the fashion industry, it's Tommy Hilfiger's crest. It's regarded as an artistic work. And the other example that you have is a fashion sketch. So that one is the underlining work that you create your dresses from. So then the other one is photograph, is your normal photos. For the makeup, it would be the photo of the makeup artist. The tutorial videos would also be protected, but for those ones, there's a different acting which says you need to register it in copyright. And that gets a bit complicated and it becomes costly. So for YouTube videos, the workaround is that you have the YouTube Studio, which allows you to actually go into it and look for similar videos compared to yours. And by doing so, you can actually stop others from actually copying it on YouTube. And you can actually stop them. I believe you can stop them yourself. So most of the social media platforms have this copyright policy in which you can actually use to prevent others from actually copying your copyright material. Then we come to trademarks. This is the last one. So trademarks are regarded as badges of origin or a mark or a symbol. So basically, you're trying to distinguish your goods or services from your competitors' goods and services. And a mark is basically any sign that's been capable of being represented graphically. So it can include a device, a name, a signature, a word, a letter, numerical shape, configuration, pattern, ornamentation, color, or container. And I mean, we are aware that trademarks are important for your brand, for your reputation. If I say Mr. Price, Woolworths, Edgar's, I mean, you automatically have an idea of who they are, what they represent, what quality you're going to get. And that's what trademarks does. That's why you get protection for it, so nobody else piggybacks on it. Okay. So the registration requirements. So it must be distinctive, and this can happen in two ways, either inherently or through use. So inherently, so you have an apple you have your trademark, you want to trademark Apple for your product being an apple. It's a descriptor, so you can't do that. But Apple and phone, it's not descriptive, it's quite distinctive. So that's what would be a trademark. And I'll give you some examples in the next slide. And similar to designs, trademark also have your classes. So you need to file in those particular classes that you are interested in. The example, Kodak, Coca-Cola, and Vodacom, their names and the products are quite different. Kodak, camera, Coca-Cola, soft drinks, Vodacom, network. But we have Mini, Standard Bank, and Tracker. If you think about it, they all describe their products and services. Standard Bank, standard, services, products. Tracker itself, Mini, the car, small. But because of its use, when we say Standard Bank, we don't think anything else but that's their name, that's their brand. Tracker is the same, Mini is the same. So the effect and duration. So a trademark prevents others from using an identical mark or mark negation, but if you do not use your trademark consecutively for 5 years, it can be cancelled. Okay. Then let's look at the types of trademarks you get in the three industries. For fashion industry, Louis Vuitton, Chanel. Photography is an interesting one. For the photos on Getty Images, they have that small watermark, so you can't actually copy it, which is quite nice. Then another example will be National Geographic's yellow rectangle logo, which is simple, but it's distinctive. And then you have makeup artistry would be the name, the Max Factor. And that's it from me. Thank you for your attention, and I hope you find this thing very informative.
Ladies and gentlemen, Yogani ready for you. Round of applause again. Thank you so much, Yogani. And I'm hoping that you'll be sharing that presentation with everyone. So we'll be sending it. I think that presentation specifically was very important, the do's and don'ts, because sometimes we get it wrong, and sometimes we think we are on the right track, and we actually not, When she was giving a presentation, there was a lot of, why didn't I do that? Why did So quite relevant. Thank you so much for that. We'll move along to our next presenter or next speaker, Ms. Thabang Radebe. She is a Johannesburg-based, multiple award-winning professional photographer. With a background in graphic design, she discovered a passion for photography in 2014, registered her company in 2015, and quit her full-time job to pursue photography full-time in 2016. Best decision ever, she says. Thabang was mentored by world-renowned photographers throughout her career. She's also a voiceover artist and a qualified personal trainer. She also studied exercise science. So that comes in handy in her moving around, isn't it? Yes. Her distinct style of using muted lighting and excess props in her celebrity images makes her work instantly recognizable, creating final pieces that look as if they've stepped right out of the Renaissance section of a fine art gallery. Her consistent style helped her to gain prominence in her career, leading to opportunities to shoot some of the most influential and famous individuals in South Africa and beyond. Round of applause for Thabang. She'll be speaking on how IP has accelerated her photography business and creativity. She's the founder and chief executive officer of Thabang Art Photography. Welcome, ma'am.
Good morning. I am glad to be here. I was hearing her introduce me and I was like, yeah? Is she talking about me? Good morning to everybody. Happy World Intellectual Property Day. I am excited to share my story. So as I share my story, I'm going to give you lessons in between, because there's really no point in me sharing a story if I'm not sharing the lessons I've learned over time. So I started out as a graphic designer. I won my first job on a game show. Okay. I didn't go to university, but I did go via a private tutor. I know that not a lot of people can afford university fees, but this shouldn't stop you or stop motivating you from doing the things you want to pursue. So I did graphic design. I worked at a company called Urban Brew for 2 years. And then I moved to ETV, news, a completely different. So I was there for 8 years. First 4 years in, I realized that I'm not happy. And in the corporate space, it's very easy to get caught in the pity parties where you're like, oh, I hate my job. I don't like what I do. I got tired of that. And I got engaged in 2013. I'm going to get very up close and personal with you guys so that you understand my story and understand how I got to where I am today. So I went to a wedding expo with my ex-husband, now ex-husband, and I realized that there were no black female photographers. Walked around, it was a male-dominated industry, but there were a lot of white people, if I can put it like that. So we booked our wedding photographer. First, we had an engagement shoot with him, and he disappointed us, okay? But while he was taking those photos, I was like, man, this looks easy. I was like, I can do this. Look, the camera looked very intimidating. I'd never known how to use a camera. But I was like, nah, man, I can do this. So he brought us, he sent the pictures eventually. Because I'm a graphic designer, I could tell that he didn't edit them at all. There were dustbins in the background in the one picture, and I was like, this guy. Cool, then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna try this photography thing. Now, the previous year, one of my colleagues got married, and her wedding photographers did an amazing job. Okay, so I was like, I reached out to them and I was like, I want to dabble in photography, and they're like, cute. So I decided, no, you know what? I'm actually going to get a camera. I didn't know which camera to get, but then I discovered at Game they were having a thing where you could actually buy a camera on credit. So now this was a good thing or a good way for me to test if I was really serious about photography. My lesson to you is, before getting into something, make sure you are sure that you want to do it. How I did it was, my camera was going to pay itself off. I wasn't going to use my salary. So another important thing, I had a mentor at the time, okay? Before I get to that. So what I did is, I did photo shoots. While I was at work, I'd take my camera with me, and I would photograph everything. Plants, books, colleagues. I tell colleagues to bring their kids to work. As you can tell, I was hardly at my desk because I was so consumed by the photography. So eventually, from that, I came up with a thing. In fact, one of my mentors suggested it. I'll get to the mentor thing just now. They suggested that I give everybody that I shot a 1 hour free shoot, 5 free images, and then charge 10 Rand per image after. So what I'd do is I'd edit more than the 5 images, and then I would sell all the other images for 10 Rand per image. So that way I was able to pay my camera off because I was making 500 Rand extra, 600 Rand, and I was very dedicated in getting this camera to pay itself off. And while I was doing this, I realized that, hey, there were issues I was having with this camera that I'm like, okay, how am I going to get my upgrade? I was like, I don't like what this camera does here, and that is how I got to the upgrade with the other camera. I'll get to that point. So, the wedding day comes, we have our wedding ceremony, photographers do our pictures, we're very happy. Now, when I first got the camera, I was brave enough to put up an album on Facebook. Social media is powerful. People are watching you, okay? So I put up the images up. I would say to people, it's my first time using my camera. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know how this thing works, but I'm gonna post. So how I came across my mentors is these ladies that shot our wedding. I would copy their images. I know this is not the right space to say it, but I'm being very honest with you. So what I would do is, I would be like, Pam, that was the name of one of my mentors. How did you get to that image? And she'd explain it, and then I'd go back and try mimicking those images. Now the benefit with this is that I was able to look at the image, mimic it, and be like, nah, man, how can I make it my image? How do I put my twist on it? And that's the importance of practicing all the time, because that's how you develop your style. I had about 3 mentors where I would learn something from someone and then be like, okay, cool, I've learned what I can, then I would jump onto the next mentor. Now the beauty with having my profile up on Facebook, my album, was that they could see I was serious, okay? Now when we get into the whole copyright thing, there was a time I had taken pictures of a couple, okay? And the power of social media. I had put my watermark on my images, and one of my friends on Facebook actually reached out to me to say, hey, there's a page in Zambia that has taken your images and removed your watermark. So they basically cropped all my images. Now the beauty of putting your stuff out is that the people that are watching you are actually backing you, which is why you need to be consistent. And this is why I say, are you sure of what you want to do? Once you've gotten to a point where you're sure, keep going, okay? So that was what happened with the Facebook thing. Obviously, it grew. My mentors saw that I was serious. And one way in which I approached my mentors is, because my style was similar to theirs, they were able to give me the time of day. Sometimes we have this tendency of, oh, please help me out. And then the person's like, okay, show me what you've done. You've got nothing to show for it. So to the fashion designers, follow people that inspire you, but also have bits of what they do in your work so that they can see that they can give you the time of day and that you're serious. I had a full-time job at ETV where I would work from 4 in the morning until 2 in the afternoon, okay? I was so desperate to get out of the graphics game that I was like, I will do anything. I was serious. So basically what would happen is on a weekend, I'd work from 4 a.m. until 2 p.m. and then still go shoot a wedding until midnight. A lot of people like looking at the arts and they're like, oh, it's so cool to be a photographer. Oh, it's so cool to be a fashion designer, but they don't put in the work. I'm going to be very honest with you about this as well. It's not an easy road. You know, you're going to have days where you're just like, I don't want to do this. This is difficult. Nobody gets it. Nobody understands my style. And this is why it's important to find your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? Initially, for me with the photography, I thought, there are no black female photographers, and I'm going to get into the industry. But that's not a sustainable reason. So there's a shoot that I did with a family, and I remember the boy had a kidney issue. His name is Mosa. This is when I discovered my why. He couldn't walk properly, but every time it was time to take that picture, he put a smile on his face. So I remember taking these pictures, and I had a massive ball in my throat, and I was like, what's going on? I remember getting home before editing, and I just bawled. My eyes, I just started crying. So I called my mentor, I was like, is this normal? Like, why am I crying over pictures? She's like, that's because you're connecting with the work you do. And this is when I realized that I'm in the photography space to serve people. I'm in the photography space to make people feel something and for memories to live on. Figure out your why, because in business, sometimes the money won't come. Sometimes people are going to book you 5 years from where you're at now. You need to keep going. On days where it's dark, you need to remember your why. You need to remember that you're making a difference in people's lives. Fashion designers, guys, you are in charge of making people look and feel good. You're making the world a better place. Okay, so always surround yourself with people that believe in you. You know, people that are going to be honest with you as well. And that's why I say it's good to have mentors. Another thing with having mentors is I don't want you to think a mentor is God. Not everything they do will work for you, and it's okay. And when you do have a mentor, make peace with the fact that some of them aren't going to be happy with letting you go because they like having you as an assistant. And it's not a bad thing. It's not intentional. But you also need to have the backbone to spread your wings and fly when you need to. Okay, in terms of the copyright thing. So I'm a black female photographer. It's a male-dominated industry. And I've been exposed to spaces where I'll take photos. I've taken photos of big names, but I've been told, you can't pose this picture. You can't do this with this picture. And at the time, obviously in the beginning, I don't mind because I'm learning. It's not about getting my name out there. Remember, I know my why. My why is to serve. Over time, when you've put in the work, the world will recognize you. You won't have to fight. They will fight for you. So I like now with software, you're able to write, I'm able to write my name in my website. So if someone clicks on the image, they see that I've taken the image. They even see what time I've taken the image. This is not stuff I was worried about in the beginning. There's certain things you shouldn't worry about in the beginning. Just focus and stay on your lane. You know, social media can be good or bad, okay? Because you see a lot of photographers. I remember at some point I was on social media, I was like, yo, there's so many photographers. Am I doing the right thing? But then I realized we all have a different perspective. You know, just like singers, there's so many singers. You don't hear singers saying, oh my gosh, you don't hear Whitney, oh, not Whitney Houston, she's passed away. Basically, artists that are singing, like your favorites, who has a favorite? Like, give me an example. Let's have an interactive conversation. Anybody? Lyra? Okay, so those two people sound completely different, right? But they're comfortable because they know they have different voices. You know, the world is big. You can cater to different people. Just not everybody's going to like you. That's a fact. And that's okay. You know, that type of thing. So just know that you have your own perspective. And the people that believe in you or like your work want you to shine within that perspective. You will get your blessings. Just trust the process. But in the beginning, you've got to put in the work. And you've got to deal with asking a lot of questions. Why are you doing what you're doing? Trust me, when you put in the work, your IP will speak for itself. Because yes, all the stuff is very complicated. But over time, you build a team of people that will believe in your work so much that they'll be able to help you and be like, okay, here's a lawyer that can help you with this. These are your rights. This is what you can do. This is how you can cover your tracks. But people can only back you if you put in the work and you believe in yourself. And remember your why. All right. Thanks. I think the last message I have for fashion designers is, I'm no fashion expert, but you need to know that you've been gifted with something powerful. There are people that wake up in the morning feeling horrible, but the fact that you've created a garment that makes people feel a certain way is making the world a better place. You're putting a smile on someone's face before they interact with the rest of the world. So basically what you're doing has a ripple effect. So keep going, build, be ready to put in the work. Be an amateur. Being an amateur is so cool because you're constantly learning. Yes, being a professional sounds cool, but now you're limited because you're professional. With an amateur, you're able to make mistakes, learn new things, figure things out, break them down, rebuild, break down. If you go into your world every day with that type of mentality, you're going to go far, you're going to be more relatable to a lot of people. So whatever you do, keep going, don't stop. The world needs your perspective. Thank you.
Wow. Let me switch that off. She says build and be ready to put in the work. Be persistent. Be persistent every day, every single day, you know. Thank you so much, Tabang, for that very inspirational presentation. We thank you for honoring the invite and also sharing your story. Tabang is here with a mother. So, yeah, definitely. So we also have to recognize, because, if it wasn't for mom, Tabang wouldn't be here today. So thank you so much. Yeah, we're really proud of your daughter and the work that she continues to do. Extremely proud. The university, the Tshwane University of Technology, is watching your work as well. And that's the reason you're here today. So thank you so much. And our next speaker is Ofensi Mkhumisi. Is an award-winning makeup artist who is celebrated widely. Ofensi has worked with the creme de la creme of the fashion, entertainment, and corporate industry. Ofensi has a youthful, modern approach to beauty, specializing in fresh-faced looks with bursts of vibrant color. Ofensi is not only an extremely talented makeup artist, but also a creative who educates young people who aspire to succeed in the industry. Ofensi says, I quote, "South Africa is rich in culture and beauty. The people are a great mix of our ancestors, and we don't lack in talent or creativity. My approach to beauty is all about transformation. I love transforming someone into either a completely different person or into the most beautiful version of themselves." Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Ofensi Mkhumisi, who will be speaking about how IP has accelerated my makeup business. Ofensi Mkhumisi is founder and chief executive officer of Ofensi the Face Dresser. Round of applause, please.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction and the warm welcome. I'd like to first start thanking the Office of the Vice Chancellor for this wonderful invitation. So I am Ofensi, but Kalina ke Ofensi Mkhumisi. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a background of who Ofensi is and how Ofensi came to be about. Most of the time, I'm used to working behind the scenes and making people look different and beautiful. And today, I'm here, but I'm always told, and I'm like, my job is to make people look beautiful. But today, I am here to share my story and educate everybody about IP and what does it mean and how it has accelerated my business. So when I started in the industry, it was 11 years ago. When I started the makeup industry, I had no idea that I wanted to be a makeup artist. I was actually chosen by God and my ancestors to be in this field. Raised by 5 phenomenal women, which is my 2 sisters, no, actually 4. My 2 sisters, my mom and my grandmother. You can imagine how fashion, beauty, and just grooming was such a big part of my life growing up. So when I matriculated, there was some difficulties at home and I couldn't further my studies. I remember I wanted to be either a lawyer or a psychologist. And this one time I was going to shop for cosmetics and I was in a click store and a man came up to me and said, "We are looking for someone like you in the store." And I was like, "What do you mean? It's like December, like, there's a lot of scammers, you know? So I don't trust, first of all. I'm like, whoa, what are you trying to do, you know? And then this man asks for my number, and I give this man my number, and he then later on calls and says, come for an interview, we are looking for casuals, and we're looking for someone like you. Clearly, I'm sure he meant someone in the LGBTI community, but he didn't want to be rude or something. You know, and I went and I got prepped and, you know, they asked me a couple of questions. It was very general and I got the job. And then I didn't know much and they took me to training and, you know, and I was still lost at the time because remember, I'm trying to find myself. It's the December holidays. I don't even know what I'm doing. All I'm knowing is that I'm going to a click store and I'm going to pack L'Oreal facials and the Garnier facial. Like, I don't know much about it. Until this one time, a lady called Zanele Kumalo was like, you know what? You are in this department, so we need to put makeup on you. So there's no way that you're going to be in this department without wearing makeup. And she was like, okay, sit down on this chair. I'm going to put makeup on you. And she did that. She put makeup on me. And I kid you not, it was in 2011. I don't remember the time and the date, but I know it was in December. My life was never the same again. My life was never the same again. I was like, wait a minute, is there a thing that extends lashes called a mascara and I didn't know all this time? My life was never the same. And that's when I understood that creativity is actually a calling that we all have. Whether it's in academia, whether it's in sports, whether it's in whatever, we are all gifted with something. A lot of the times, when we think artistic personas and characters, we think singers, dancers, makeup artists and stuff. But through the many years that I've been in this industry, I've learned that even a mathematician is actually an artist. We are all gifted in many different ways. When I started the makeup industry, I had no idea what could be. What I knew was that after that day, that a passion, something was actually born in me. In 2011, when I started, I remember when I started my first client, after now starting to work and getting clients, because I had a bubbly personality, I didn't have money. And this one time, a client came to me and was like, you know what, I like you. Can you please come do my makeup? And I was like, okay, fine, I'm going to accept. And she was like, what do you charge? I think I charged her like 250 at the time. And I went to Zanele and I was like, Zanele, there's a lady who wants me to do her makeup and I don't have anything. She was like, okay, fine, cool, I'll borrow you some of my stuff. I didn't even have a makeup kit. I went and bought at a plastic shop, a Tupperware, big container. Those, it wasn't even a Tupperware, it was no name. Those blue and light blue, ne? And I went to the lady, like I was very confident. I went there, Gadi Sampoli, you know, and I was very confident because I knew that this is something that I am ordained and called upon to do. And after the lady gave me the balance, I went and bought a couple of things. And then as time went by, I mean, you know, I got a promotion. I started, you know, being liked by the reps. Started working for brands now, started working on my artistry. The manager actually started investing in me and taking me to the L'Oreal School of makeup. And now, you know, now I started knowing more about the industry. And I started seeing that this is actually more purposeful than what I think. Because every time a woman would sit on my chair at that Click store or at that Edgar store, we shared something. You know, she'd tell me like, yo, you know, I'm going through this. And that time I'm just, you know, I'm unknowingly so. I'm actually being the psychologist that I wanted to be, but unknowingly so. You know what I mean? Unknowingly so. And I started realizing that this is a purpose and this is a passion, you know. Every time I'd share a heartfelt conversation with somebody who's sitting on my chair while I'm making them beautiful, that thank you made me look beautiful was more than thank you made me look beautiful. A part of what was making her feel heavy was lifted off. And then I was like, okay, this is no play. This is actually what God has ordained me to do. I started asking myself now, how can I grow? When I started in this industry, I wanted to always merge my age with what I am doing currently in life. So I've always said, I don't want to be 30 and be this type of makeup artist. You know, like I've always wanted my age and my lifestyle to be in alignment with how I grew myself and how I grow my things. And I was like, how can I grow? And how can I govern and protect my artistry? If there's a way I can evolve and grow beyond. I then realized that I am an intellectual property. Self. I then realized that, no, actually, you being created by God are an intellectual property. What's your name? It's like, my name is Ofense. And I'm like, okay, fine, cool. People have always said to me, yo, you are so fancy. You know, you're offensive, young. You know, and I was like, okay, yeah, I'm fancy, you know. And then, you know, I remember in my high school, I had Danny Dorsey would always be like, oh, fancy, you know, come to the front. Because, like, I wasn't a naughty child, but, like, I used to love talking a lot, and I was a very chatty child. So she'd always say, offensi, offensi. And then from that, when I offensi, man, when I offensi, you know, it literally like starting making an echo in my mind and in my soul. And then I realized that, okay, kefensi. And then a little story. One time I accidentally got arrested in Durban. Accidentally. I promise you, I don't lie. No, wait again. Accidentally. I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. You know? And then I didn't know. I had just gotten there. And then a van came. And then they just took us all, you know? And then I ended up in I promise you, I ended up in jail. But then the policeman and woman could see that, no, man, this child doesn't belong here. And then now, because when they took us all, they didn't there was no time for anybody to explain, right? And then, I got there and I started crying. And I'm like, no, I'm actually waiting for my friend. And I showed them proof that, no, I actually just got to Durban. And then this friend was going to show me where's the hotel and stuff. And then they let me out, right? And then now, when they let you out, they sign us. They give you like a little bit of a slip, yeah? Because they were like, no, but then you're going to pay bail. I'm like, okay, fine. My friend came and paid my bail. And they were like, whatever, fine. I don't know what it's called. Yeah, but then I had to pay that. And then when I got out, when they gave me the slip, the officer wrote my name as, I couldn't lie at the time. I said my real name, Offense Nkumise. But then the officer spelled my name as Ofency, Nkumise. I still have the slip today as a remembrance of how ordained Offensi was. And from that moment, I knew that I had to be Offensi. I had to be Offensi. And then I knew that, okay, that's the first line, I'm Offensi now. And then now I looked around and I was like, okay, I see and hear everybody in the industry talking about a beat, a face beat. And I was like, now, first of all, I'm not a violent person. So I don't want to beat a face. I'm a very sophisticated person. I took it from my mom and my sister. Sophisticated women, there they are. Very elegant. You know, I took it from them, and I knew that I'm very classy and sophisticated, so I'm not going to beat the face. I'm going to dress the face. Yes. It didn't feel right, and it didn't sound right. And I was like, no. I am going to be Offensi, who dresses the face. So, and then I was like, no, I don't want to beat faces. I want to be Offensi, who will now dress the face. And then now I started now growing and looking at what can the industry do for me and seeing different ways of the industry and what does the industry offer. There's retail, there's different types of makeup artistry, movies, music videos, bridal makeup artists, you know? And I was like, okay, what can I do? And I remember when I registered my business, I didn't understand what I was doing, but I'm one person who believes in preparation. Even when I don't know what's happening in life, I always prepare. You know, I've never traveled abroad, but my passport is there, and every time I pass it, and I'm like, yes. Yes, you know, so I've always been a person who strongly believes in preparation. So I then registered my business. I don't remember the year. I registered my business, and when I registered my company, I didn't know much about IP. I didn't know that I had to protect something, right? I just registered the company, and then life went on, and I became Offensive Face Dresser. And then at some point, I've always said, when you have a calling and when you're not acting upon your calling, there's going to come a point where your God and your ancestors are going to put you in a corner to be left with nothing to do but to unleash your highest and strongest power. And that is what happened in my life. I got fired. Yes. And there was nothing to the case, right? I got fired, and when I got fired, I became still, and I understood what was happening in my life. And then I realized that I've got a talent and I've got a calling that I now must use. So now I was no longer employed. I was now working fully as Offensi, the face dresser. And then as Offensi, the face dresser, I now started learning more about now what it takes to run a business, you know, get a business account, do this, do that. And I started understanding. I saw this one time, there was a number plate on a car, a beautiful car, and it was "Oh Fancy." Yo, my blood boiled. I was like, no, 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 something is wrong. That is my name. That is my name. Like, what? Is there somebody who's fancy out there? Because in my mind, I thought I'm the only one who's creative. You know, like Ditiro said, like, you know, like you always think you're the only one who's thinking like the way you think. And then I saw the car, and then the plate was so fancy, and I was like, And then I went to the CIPC, and I was like, I need information and education on how can I be the only offensive. And at the time, I didn't know much, I won't lie. I was more concerned about offensive only, not the face dresser. I didn't know about trademarks, I didn't know about patents, I didn't know about copyrights, I didn't know all these things. And then I was blessed enough to be educated about all these things, to be like, what's the why of you protecting offensive? And then I told them that, okay, I've got to make a business and stuff like that. And then the guy was like, no, actually, trademark your logo. It is your name, right? It's offensive the face dresser. Trademark it. You don't even have to like waste your time and then trademark the name. And no. Your logo and the name automatically covers and protects everything. And then I immediately knew that, okay, now I'm no longer playing in a small pool, and I have to now beef up my socks. So by protecting my IP, it immediately increased the visibility and attractiveness of my business, and it maximized the value of my services, and it allowed my clients and potential clients to distinguish my services from the rest. And in that time when I was now unemployed, I started hosting women empowerment seminars. And when I started doing that, that's when my IP actually came in place, because everybody wanted to know, who is this offensive? And everybody now wanted to know, what does offensive actually do? So IP became a safe space. It became a safe space for me, because the beauty industry is a forever evolving industry, and many times visions don't always manifest at the time we think. So with IP, I learned to protect my visions and to stay in tune. I started learning that no vision is too big and too small, as I was doing the women empowerment seminars. And I started knowing that, okay, fine, how am I going to furthermore protect this? When I registered my NGO, Beauty in Brokenness, I knew, the NGO is all about empowering women and training them and teaching them. One of my students is here actually today. So when I registered that, I learned that IP is a very important tool, especially as an independent business owner and you are running your business. Everybody that comes to you wants to know who you are and how are you protected and what are you giving them, and can what you are giving them maintain them in the long run. Can my student go out and say, I actually learned from Offensive the Face Dresser? What is the next thing that they're going to do? They're going to look me up. And what do they find? And that is what IP did for me. It literally accelerated my business. It literally protected me, and not just only me, but everybody whose lives I was touching by educating. And now I started becoming more passionate about educating. I started becoming more passionate about grooming young women and old women, all women actually, because I started understanding that women are creative. 5 years running now, facilitating as an associate facilitator for other institutes and for Beauty in Brokenness, my NGO with a friend. That's what we do all the time. And one of the greatest things that I want to share with you today, I literally thought of this yesterday. It's a philosophy. And this is how I learn, and this is how I've always learned. I came with a foil, something very funny. Right? It's just a foil, ne? Yeah. So if I take this foil and I wrinkle it up and I put it next to a bin, what are you going to think it is? Trash, right? Thank you. But if I take this foil and I put it here, what are you going to think this is? Treasure. So one of my greatest lessons in life was that your environment plays a very critical role in the person you aspire to be. I am so honored to be here today because this environment, this university, enabled us to become this. to become this. I am here to say to you, teaching is not just about the transferring of knowledge and wisdom. Let us network across the room and not always to the top. Let us create environments where we can dream without limits. There are so many different inventions, innovative people, majestic people, but just because they are not supported in this way, they think their dreams and their visions are nothing. So thank you. When you walk out of here today, make sure that you create an environment for somebody in this way. No idea is too small, no idea is stupid. And that's why I'm here today as an award-winning makeup artist from Kabalatzani. Took a chance. I didn't let the environment, literally pull me down. And today people cannot believe that I'm from there. And like, it's a big honor. And that's why I transfer also my wisdom to everybody around me and all my students. Thank you so much.
Fancy the face dresser, ladies and gentlemen. Round of applause. I see Offense's mom beaming with pride. It's also an emotional moment for her. I see it. Mama, we are very proud of Offense. Mama, please, if you may, so that we see Offense ukuthi uzalwa ubani. And the sister, of course. Thank you very much. Yeah. And some of the students, I see one of the students is here. Yes, we welcome you. Yeah. Thank you so much. That is Offense Mkhumisi, founder and chief executive officer of Offense, the face dresser. Thank you so much, Offense, for that beautiful, motivational, inspirational, educational presentation. Thank you so much. I'd like to request all the speakers to come just here in front for the Q&A. That time has arrived for you to, anyone with a burning question, please pose it to any of the speakers that we had today. And feel free, get up, introduce yourself, who you are, where you're from, and pose your question. Thank you so much, the speakers. May you please. With a raise of a hand, there we have our first, question. Introduce yourself and pose a question. Yeah.
It's on. Oh, greeting to the audience, MC, speakers. Greeting of specificity to Professor Naidu and Dr. Zamklaga. My name is Vuisa Sholo. I'm from East London. I'm a student in TUT in Arcadia campus. I came late, but I'm so in love with the topic of IP. I am working on a project or on a product, the scientific product, with the leaf that we take from Eastern Cape. But now I'm a bit selfish about my product or business idea, but yet I need help. I'm being helped by TUT, using their facilities, but now I want to own the product without them also having some percentage on it. How do you go about that? Is there a way that maybe I can pay them later? and then own the product, the finished product by myself. All the rights are mine. Is there a way of that? Possibilities, maybe.
So the question is posed to Yogan, I presume.
Since I came late, Speaker, any.
Okay,
Yes, yes,
anyone.
yeah.
So you said that you're getting assistance for your product,
I do have a professor that is assisting me as we speak, and we're busy with it.
and you're a student.
Yes, I'm a student.
So there would be some form of agreement that's been placed.
That's what we're busy on. But he told me that the facilities are from TUT. So there can't be a way that they cannot benefit from it.
Yes.
But I don't want them to benefit. Remember about my product, I know it's worked traditionally so. It's working. All the men from Eastern Cape can tell you. I've been there. It does work. But now we're doing phytochemistry and biological activity. It means the science side of it. So I cannot do it without myself. I need help. Idea is mine, but I'm using facilities of the second whatever.
So the first thing you need to do is come up some form of an agreement. That's going to form the basis of everything. So at the moment, you don't have anything. There's nothing in place. That's why we say that a non-disclosure agreement is very important. It defines who owns the rights to the idea and what can be done with it. So your first step is to do that. Once you do that, you need to form an agreement with them. It comes into a place. They will tell you that they're not happy with it, the fact that you're using their facilities in order to create your idea, to bring your idea into a tangible form. So that's the first step that you need to do. Because it's me as well that they'll come and they say, you know what, what you're asking for is too much, and then they'll say, no, we're not going to assist you further with it, and you would need to find somebody else to actually assist you with it. So it's a difficult one, and it's unlikely that you would actually get the product yourself completely to own it, but your first step is get an agreement in place. So both parties understand the terms and who the rights belong to. Right?
Prom Director, can I ask him to speak to me? Yeah, speak to me privately so I can assist you.
There we go. There we go. There's a question, Prof. Yes.
Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful. It's a beautiful function, and I'm glad I'm a participant. Thank you for to the organizers, the DVC, Dr. MPD, Lufuno, and everybody. My name is Rotimi Sadiku. I've been with TUT for almost 20 years now. I retired 3 months ago, but I'm not tired. I'm still available. Yeah. My question goes to Ms. Reddy. A product that was theoretically modeled on a computer, tested and characterized and deemed appropriately functional. A product, for instance, a drug to target cancer, for instance, or a material that can be useful as a superconductor for energy storage. At what point will I be able to protect this modeled material? Must I have to send my students to the lab and produce them and test them practically before I can approach Dr. Mpidi to protect it for me? But a lot of work has gone into the work on the computer and theoretically tested to be functional and appropriate. But we need to go to the lab to produce such product later on and test it maybe on rat or animal before human being. At what point can we protect the modeled product?
Thank you for the question. That's quite an interesting one. So the fact that you already have something theoretically on a computer that you know that it works, and you need to apply it physically to see if it does. So what we do is we have something called a provisional application. So from what I gather from you, you actually have quite a bit of detail on the invention, in which we can describe it such in detail in a provisional application first. But the only thing is that you have within 12 months to actually complete that application and file a patent application. That's where you get your rights from, when you file a patent application and it gets granted. What the provisional will allow you to do is just to secure your novelty of the invention. And it also gives you that 12 months to finalize your experiments, the things that you need to get done in order to have it as a working functional drug or material that you need. But if you require more time to actually create it beyond the 12 months, that's where you need to actually strategize now and think that if I can get component 1 done, let's file the first provisional. Then if there's still some other information you want to add to the provisional, what we can do is we can file a second provisional up till within 12 months. So the route I would suggest is that you need to file a provisional application if you have the enough information for it. Within 12 months, complete all your trials and experiments. And with that, when I say that, when you file your complete application, you can actually add more information. You can add examples of your experiments, your trials. You can put it in to show that how the advantages and the unexpected results overcomes what's currently existing. So that would be the approach. But remember, again, you must make sure that within 12 months, you need to get it completed.
There's a hand here. May we please have the mic? Oh, there's...
Yes.
Let's take him and then you. And there's a gentleman there at the back as well, in that order. You may proceed, sir.
Good afternoon. Is it afternoon? Yeah. My name is Lawrence Baloy, and I just wanted to come to the assistance of the Eastern Cape students and to many other students about their projects. I think one of the most important things that we need to look at or question to ask is whether what you brought to the university falls wholly within the course and scope of your studentship. And I'll expand a little bit. For example, if you say, for example, you are a chemical engineer, whether you're a student or an employee, it's immaterial. If you are a chemical engineer and then you develop a medicament for treating cancer, that in itself does not fall wholly within the course and scope of your studentship if you are a student, or employment if you are an employee. As a result, the university and or your employer will not lay claim to ownership of that particular piece of work, unless in instances where the researcher or the employee who's assisting you to develop that particular piece of work has made some inventive contribution or contribution which is significant enough for the working of that invention. Then the university can co-own that invention with you. Bear in mind, if it's not within the course and scope of your studentship, university would not lay claim to it. However, in collaborating with anybody within the university, within his course and scope of his employment, university will lay claim. So in this case, then in your case, if you are not a pharmacist and you develop something to that effect, it will mean that the university would then co-own that invention with you. But in an instant where it falls within the course and scope of your studentship, both yourself as a student and the researcher would have to assign that piece of work to the university, meaning that the university will own the intellectual property. Yes, they will own, but there are advantages. There are very big advantages around that. Remember, on your own, I'll give you an example. If you look at the Please Call Me case, but I'm not going to dwell much into that, let me use a different example. On your own, say you develop an offensive product, of dressmaking, face, whatever. And then Lawrence, as a big conglomerate, copy your product and start distributing it and selling it in competition with you. Intellectual property is a very funny game. You need to have deep pockets to fight those people. Now, if you do not have money, you do not have big pockets, sometimes it becomes a challenge. Now, the advantage of taking the university along is that they will never allow anybody from outside to mess you up. His office will obviously assist you in ensuring that they protect the invention, and they also assist you in maybe fighting that case in court. So I think it will advise you, but it is very important to all of you as students and employees that you need to find out as to whether it falls wholly within the course and scope of your studentship or employment. Thank you.
Over to you, Matt.
Okay. Afternoon, everyone. I'm Nomsa from City of Tshwane. I've heard earlier on everybody was addressing the issue of IP in a creative space, but now on a corporate space, and you come up with an innovation system or strategy that can make a workspace more easy to work on or what, as an individual, how does one go about it to protect that? Or do you just check with the organization in line with coming up with those innovation strategies or system that can make a working environment better in a sense that, do they have policies around it? Or does one have to start doing it individually and come up with it after consulting on how to patent or protect the idea and be recognized as, you know, I'm the one who came up with it? How do you go about that one?
Sorry, I'm a bit confused about your question.
Oh, okay. I'm saying when you're in a corporate space and you come up with a strategy or innovation system in a workspace that can make it even easier for, how can I put, employees to work, how do you protect that idea? Or do you go in line with what the organization has? I mean, how, oh God, now I'm even more confusing it, but I think, I think what I'm trying to say, when you come up with an idea in a working environment, how do you protect it, and how do you get recognized for it, and how do you go about it on an IP, you know, policies and system on how to get it be recognized that you came up with the idea, but you still protect it and still can own it. You know, I don't know if it makes sense.
Let me come in. I think it does. I think the response is similar to our professor there, what he mentioned
Yes.
earlier. That, for example, let's say I work for corporate affairs and marketing at the Tshwane University of Technology, and I come up with a system or an idea that will enhance, you know, our activities in that space. How do I claim it as mine? You know, how do I protect it as my idea in that space, basically?
Yeah. So it will also be defined. I mean, if you're working for an employer, you're going to have your contract, your agreement contract. And remember, in every contract these days, when it comes to IP, whatever is created in your scope of work, so if you your duty is to do that, then it's going to be assigned over. If you use the employee's facilities in order to create those things, there's going to be an assignment there. So it's very difficult. So if anything you do that it's beyond, if it's not within your employment and your duties, and if you do it off-grid, you mean it's at home you do it, that's yours. That's perfectly fine, that's yours. But employment contracts are very important. You actually should go and read it and see what it actually says about intellectual property.
Thank you very much. My name is Cecilia Mumakwe. I am the owner and founder of Black Olive Hair Salons. I hope most of you are aware of that. Thank you. Okay, my question is posed to my fellow entrepreneurs. I would like to establish, now that you have patented or secured your brand, how do you leverage on that to make super profits and also to make sure that you ensure sustainable economic value out of that? Thank you.
Okay, so can you repeat your question? So profit?
How do you ensure that you keep that profit? Because I know it's difficult as an entrepreneur to sustain profitability. So I would like to find out, how does the IP help you to sustain profitability in your business?
Okay, so it goes back to that thing where there are a million singers and everybody has their own signature. So you've got a target market, right? So that's your thing. You obviously have an ingredient within your product that makes your product yours. You get what I'm saying? You have your own signature thing that is part of your hairline, right? So that is how, I mean, you could market your product even more or grow your team. But okay, let me use myself as an example. Yes, okay. So with me, I've got a signature way of shooting, right? And in terms of profitability, because I'm an individual, I could build a team, but my client wants Tabang, and that's where I'm going to increase my rate. So if I'm sending someone who's been trained by Tabang, I will charge them, but we can probably charge 1,000 Rand per hour. But if they say I want Tabang specifically, I'll charge 10,000 Rand. Why? Because they want me specifically. Why? Because I have my own signature in how I relate to people and how I shoot. So that's what I've honed in over the years.
I think me and Tabang are one in the same line in terms of IP. When your IP is protected, you can multiply, right, your salons. And wherever they are, with me as Offensive the Face Dresser, I'm building a team, but everybody wants that signature from Offensive the Face Dresser. And nobody can be Offensive the Face Dresser, right? But what I will then do is that I will train my makeup artists to understand the ethics of Offensive the Face Dresser, the culture of Offensive the Face Dresser. So in the absence of Offensive the Face Dresser still works within that, but Offensive the Face Dresser is somewhere else. So I think for you, the greatest thing you could do is have a little bit more trust in your team. And, you know what I mean? Have a little bit of more trust in your team, because they are the ones that are going to expand. If you don't have a product to sell, and it's quite hard, it's either you have a service or you have a product. And that's one of the things that I struggled with for many years, and I'm still doing right now. I'm a service, right? But I am now creating a product so that if I don't sell my service, my product can still be sold. Yes.
Should I chip in? Just, Offensi touched on the very last bit of what I understand to be how to make your business profitable, specifically in the space of design manufacturing, where I am. I've learned that first thing, yes, you have to have your product. Once you have your product and it's profitable, well, you learn to master that particular product. You are known for that, you hone that, and you establish yourself as an authority in that space. Then once you've done that, you can move into the space of teaching, which will also catapult your profits, because once people are able to learn what you do, then you can also diversify, whether it's creating manufacturing plants or just in general becoming a brand that is known for not only teaching, but also a product line that becomes a home line that becomes something that is transferable all over the world. In my space, the reason I've actually come back to school is because I see the need to have a much more documented process, created for the design space. Things like fashion criticism are a scarce resource in our space. We see a lot of designers creating and manufacturing products over the years, but not enough is written about them. And I believe that in that already is an opportunity, and I hope that those who are also listening, who are from the fashion design space.
1, 2, 3. Okay, there's 4 in that order. So we're starting with you, sir. Oh, you have the mic. Okay, let's start with you, sir, and then you will follow. Will that be okay? Please, you may go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much. My name is Ali. I'm from city of Tshwane. I just want to ask a question of how do we often find a challenge in this space of IP or plagiarism? I don't think in my assessment that we find this thing in a big, maybe industries or big companies, because that you can't just challenge that because you fear that you'll be in trouble. Do we find this thing particularly, I think particularly in a small space where you find that there is maybe a personal, maybe entity, like if you are, you have invent your own company. I think is that maybe a challenge that we most find this kind of challenges. Can any one of you clarify in that space? I thank you.
Okay, I think if I'm understanding the question, he said that plagiarism, or when you create something, how do you protect yourself from people not stealing? That's the way, right? I think more than most, having a strong identity sets you apart from, and it'll depend with the industries and the categories that are there, right? So if you are in the finance space, or if you are in the art space, or if you are in the health space, there will be different types of plagiarism, right? But your identity and knowing that you're going to have something that's so strong that makes you stand out. And everybody that wants to copy you will be seen. And obviously, if you protect your IP in whatever industry that you're in, then you can go on a journey of fighting for what's rightfully yours. So as a makeup artist foundation, like I'm gonna go back to service and product, right? I've got two ways of protecting my IP. The product and the service. The service, I cannot fight somebody because they had contoured the same way that I did. But I will do something that has a signature. You know what I mean? I mean, you look at, there's a lady who literally trademarked her hair. What's her name? Moonchild, right? And you would think, why would somebody like trademark her hairstyle? But it's what? Her signature. So it's all about the little things and your identity. And it depends on what industry you are in. So whatever industry that you are in, maybe, I don't know much, maybe you're a doctor and you know how to stitch nice. You know, you can literally maybe, I don't know, I'm just giving an example, you understand? So there'll always be that little detail that you have in whatever industry that you're in that will make you different from the next person. And that becomes your your IP. And then that's what you protect. So I think, I guess maybe that answers your question, and I'll pass the mic to others. Thank you.
So with the photography, the nice thing is Lightroom and Photoshop have a thing where you write details and it documents. So I've set my camera in such a way that images that come out of my camera, there's a time, a date, and my name. So even when I send the images to clients, if they click on it and look for information, it will always trace back to me. And I always advise photographers to keep originals of their images. So don't do this thing of, oh, because the file sizes are so big, I'm going to delete everything. No, keep the originals. It was mentioned earlier that keep proof of everything you've got. That way you'll be able to prove your case. And it's going to be easy because the image will speak for itself.
Afternoon. I'm Gift Namatei. I'm doing fashion design and arts. I'm over there.
But okay, you may proceed. He has given you the opportunity to ask the question, but just after you, then he follows, right? Great. There you go.
Okay, I'm Gift Namaste. As I said, I'm from Limpopo. So I heard you guys saying like we can protect our brand and everything, né? I heard you guys saying we can protect our brand or a product, but you didn't tell us where can we do that, trademark and copyright, the process of doing that thing.
Okay. You're getting a lot of questions today. I think that's the reason we're all here today. Also, the legal part of things, very important.
Yes.
Over to you, Yogani.
Okay, so with copyright, remember it's automatic. It already exists. As soon as you create it, you put it into a material form, you publish it in its original, okay, and it's a qualified person. Remember, we discussed those 4 things. So that's when copyright exists. With regards to trademarks is a little bit more complicated. You would preferably consult a trademark attorney, because the process involves is that you file a trademark application with CIPC. And what they do is it goes under examination. So you have your trademark, you got it, then the examiners examine it, see if there's any similar marks already registered, and there could be objections to your mark, and then you respond, you change your trademark, and that's basically the process of it. So it's not that complicated with trademarks.
But what I want to know is like, where do we do a trademark?
CIPC.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Actually, that was a very good question, because a whole lot of people don't know, you know. So thank you very much for that question. Over to you, sir.
Okay. Greetings, everyone. My name is Letlon Guigoi. I'm an intern in TUT Social Campus under the ICT faculty. So my question is more based on photography for Mr. Bang. So I'm working on opening my own company. So I have a problem with, I don't want funding from anyone. I want to work on my way up. So with that, I have a challenge on some resources and stuff. So I heard you mention that you got your camera through credit. It paid for itself. So I want to know more on how did you get it, because every time I try to get that, they always ask me about payslip and stuff. So since I'm an intern, my payslip is kind of eventually limited to 6 months, and I think maybe my payment will be over 6 months, so it kind of cuts me off.
Okay, I've got a brilliant idea for you. You also have the option of hiring equipment. So what you can do, there's a place called the Lens for Hire in Sandton. There are a few places. Maybe I can chat to you afterwards. There's a place called a Lens for Hire in Sandton. You can hire equipment. Now, the nice thing with that is when you hire the equipment, then maybe from whatever you're doing with the equipment, you can save money, and then, so use that hiring. It doesn't cost a lot. I'm sure you can get, I mean, there's certain lenses you can get for like 250. Whatever you hire, make money from that so you can buy what you need to buy. And the nice thing is that you'll be buying your stuff cash. You won't need any credit. So, yeah, you're onto
Okay,
something.
I guess I will ask you after that.
There's a question there. The lady, yeah.
Good afternoon. My name is Miratul Fundi, and I'm studying at Tshwane University of Technology, doing actually civil engineering. My question was I think a lot of the speakers have mentioned how they are protecting their property, and most of them have created a company from it because it's them. It's what is from their mind. My question is it possible to create something, but I think a lot of us students have this difficulty. I design or I create something that at that particular moment, I don't have the means to, protect this property to some extent. And so the university or someone else who in that setting would owns it. At a later stage, is it possible to claim back that specific property which was indeed created by, or came from a specific person? So for example, if I designed something differently, but then at the end, I don't think at this stage of life, I want to put my name on it. And then is it possible later on, maybe 2 years, 5 years down the line, to claim back that specific property?
Yogani, I think that question is for you.
Okay, so what happens with, so you creating your invention, you're a student, it's within what you do. You go to your tech transfer officer, they file a patent for it, or they file a design for it, or whatever creation comes out of it. When you come to that stage, that's when you define your rights. You assign your rights over. So it's at the start where you do this. So once you assign it over, you can't come further down the line and then say, now I would like to get it back. It's defined at the start. So it's very important. So sorry, you can't do it later
on. I will chip in because this is something I've had experience with. I designed something for Nando's, and in the contract, I was not allowed to share, to distribute, to market. The design in itself was not mine for a year. But after that, then it became mine. So I think, like you're saying, Ms. Reddy, that you will have to find out what that institution or company's NDA contract looks like, so that if it's a space of 5 years, when that 5-year period lapses, then you take control of your design. Because I don't think, I don't know how the mining works, but there's no such thing I've heard of as a 99-year clause where you can't use your design for 99 years. It's usually a short period of time.
Sorry, and just one more thing. With regards to patents, remember, technology is always evolving. So if you create something now, it doesn't mean that later on you're not going to create a further step beyond what you currently did, which that's what's been happening. So even when we do, somebody comes up with an invention, we say, okay, we did our novelty search and we see there's something already exists. But could there be something in your invention that has an extra step? Or why don't you create something that goes beyond what's currently existing? So in that way, you can also get protection further down the line by creating your own one, creating a further step, creating something different to what currently exists.
Maybe also, Dr. Mpili, I'm going to put you on the spot. Maybe also from a university perspective, what can a student do in terms of protecting their intellectual property? What assistance is available for such ideas?
Thank you, Prom Director. I think there being indication in the morning about the terms and the condition. So I think it was indicated that if something is within the course and scope of your studies, it's very important that you discuss with the tech transfer office. Now, it doesn't mean if something it falls out of the the course and scope of your studies, we can assist you. We can assist you to a certain extent. We can do a novelty search, patent search, just to assist you that whatever you have, is it novel or not? And we can also link you with a patent attorney, like in Explorer and Fisher, that they can assist you further to register the patent. Unfortunately, in some instances where we don't co-own the IP, we might not justify the spending of the money, but we can assist you to link you with the funding, agencies. I know there are government agencies that have incentives to help the SMEs to register their patents. So we can give you guidance. The whole idea is just to contact our office. We're in Building 20, first floor, in the library, or you can look at the website and just drop us an email. But we are here to assist you, students and staff. If you're not sure, do not ask yourself questions you don't have answer. Come to us. We'll help you. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that was important, for our audience today to know that there is assistance available here at the Tshwane University of Technology, specifically the Innovation and Technology Transfer Office under the Directorate of the DVC, the Office of the DVC Research, Innovation and Engagement. Another question? Okay, there you go.
Hello. Sanbolan, Kamala Munkanye Zorangnobo, and I have two short questions. For Ms. Reddy, the first question is, in the case that someone else uses a patented or a copyrighted product without the permission of the owner, is there a body that sort of regulates that, or is the middleman between those two instances, or is it the responsibility of the owner to ensure that their product is not exploited? And then for Ms. Mashiko, my question is, as a designer, let's just keep it there for now, how do you manage creating something, say, with the intent or with the inspiration to, say, inspire certain women or certain people with sort of like a more than just a business thing, some sort of philosophy? How do you manage then when your business grows and it gets to a certain point where it gets to price points, where it gets to doing certain collaborations, doing certain things as a business person now and not just as a person or a creative? How do you manage being able to stay relevant to the people that you feel that inspired or that you created the product or the reason as to why you were creative in the first place? Thank you.
So, with your intellectual property, your patents, your copyright and trademarks, it's the owner's responsibility to actually see that somebody is copying their product. And you're required to enforce it. So you can either do it by, the first approach was, most people are not aware of the fact there's protectable products out there in terms of intellectual property, patents, trademarks. There is trademarks it should be easy, but with patents it's very difficult. People don't know that there's a protection for it. So what you do is, normally what we do is, if somebody comes in, we'll check, a patent owner comes in, we'll check it, and then what we do is, we get information about the product that is possibly infringing, and then we would review it and say, yes, okay, we believe that it is. We send a letter of demand. The patent attorney send a letter of demand to the other side and say, okay, this is our patent, this is your product. There is some sort of infringement here, and we ask you to stop. That's the first approach. And then if it becomes more complicated, that's when you go to the courts. And that's when it gets hashed out, basically. With regards to the infringement, which specifically for patents, it becomes very complicated. I'm a patent attorney, so that's why I'm focusing on patents. So with patents, it becomes complicated because you get a counter argument is that they try to invalidate your patent on those two aspects I told you about, novelty and inventiveness. So it becomes a lengthy process and it becomes costly in order to enforce it. With trademarks, it's more on, your arguments are more on application form. Goes to the court as well, but your arguments are all on paper. And then you argue that, the trademark, the article is very similar or deceiving the public or causing confusion with regards to your trademark. Answers?
Thank you for that question. It was answered for me as well recently when I attended a industry event where the same question, where I asked a buyer and agent a similar question, because in my space currently, my work is highly detailed. It's work intensive. I screen print, monoprint. By the time I get to a design, I haven't even started sewing. So I'm imagining a world where I have 3,000 units of the same thing that need to go out. How do I maintain the quality that I started with at 3,000 units? And what I was advised to do was, first of all, as I grow, distill the product. This in itself is quite labor intensive, but if it were to be a plain jersey, maybe in red, and then have a line in a different color, then that would form part of the product line. It does not take away from the original concept. What it does, it adds to your variety, and it also adds to just your ability to feed into different markets, because not everybody is able to wear a bold item of clothing. Some people would rather wear just one solid color with nothing on it, but still want to wear a Sarati item. So as designers, I think we are all creative, and it's important to maintain that very highly potent essence that you start out with. I think you see it in your David Tlales, you see it in your Makosas. But as they develop, they have products that meet the needs of the masses, but also that's not where everybody is bound to go. There are some designers that would much rather cater to 500 people and that's it. So you're not forced either to fall into the bracket of producing for mass. We are not competing with China, and that's something that also sets us apart as a design industry on this continent, that our artisanal capacity, as it grows, will be able to be more like Italy or New York. I don't know where else the most incredible craft movements are happening, but I would much rather position myself in a space where I am established, fully established as a crafter, artisanal designer, and then diversify my product from that space, as opposed to wanting to just make money. Thank you.
Are there any other questions? I'm going to take one. Okay, 1, 2, and oh, there's a lot. Oh my God. No, okay, for now, let me start with yourself, followed by the lady not far from you. And which other hands did I see? Okay, I'll see on the other side. And in that order, then we move to the side, and then we close off. Okay. All right.
Afternoon. My name is Rekhomoditswe Pekga from Garankua. I'm into fashion. My question goes to Ditiro. I see that you collaborated with Mr. Price. So would you advise upcoming designers to collaborate with retail shops? And what is the process of collaborating with retail shops?
Thank you for that. That's almost, I'd say, a no-brainer. Firstly, as a designer, you are a brand. So you would want to be associated with a brand that is bigger and better and that will accelerate your growth. There are competitions. Mr. Price currently has one for their fashion designers. I think it's called Intern. I don't know, but it's something very catchy, and you're able to literally just get into the industry. Once you're in SA Fashion, once you're in that competition with Mr. Price, they get you into SA Fashion Week. From SA Fashion Week, you're affiliated to other organizations and designers within the industry. And I would advise really just designers, young designers, to get into the habit of entering competitions. This is not said enough, that competitions really do get you into the right rooms. Even if it's not necessary, I don't know how many competitions I've won. I might have never won a single one of them, but I've always been in the right rooms. That's where it really gets interesting.
take, there's a hand here, and then it will be followed by May, there at the back.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bidumelo. And then, can I speak Setswana? Somebody
Absolutely,
can, yes.
absolutely.
I am in the agricultural, I'm not doing anything, I'm a stay-home mom. So lately, I discovered le gore ke itse go etsa juice. And ke etsa juice engwe e monate thata e leng gore ke shota gore ke botsa gore ana the university the university can take it and then into se gore ke etse lifespan ya yona mo the shelfong and then le go etsa gore because go na le di carbohydrates go tlhalosa boleng ba yona, the thickness in it, the sugar in it, the carbohydrates, the diet from the diet and the intake ya sugar ya teng. Ke a botsa gore ana the university ba khona go tsaya the outsiders ba re thusana because ge re le go gae ke tlha go magaeng, we don't have the opportunity ya gore retsi dilo tse ding because go bolela ka IP gona ya nong, and then I know nothing about it. So can the university help me in that because ke tlha ke le an outsider o sa matric yo e leng gore she's doing the best that she can do. So thank you.
Doc, may you please respond to that? DVC, would you like to give a word or two on that after Dr. Mpidi? Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, recently, I think in 2019, we launched a platform. It's not a center, it's a platform called Innovate Pretoria. We're funded by Department of Science and Innovation. The idea is to help people like you. We call them grassroots innovators, SMMEs. So yes, we can help you. Just contact us. We will help you through the platform. It's sort of our CSI where we give back to the communities where we have footprint. Thank you.
Can I please have a mic for the DVC? Or we can use this one. Okay.
Maybe I should stand. No, thank you so much for that question. I don't know whether I should speak Zulu or Xhosa then. I'm particularly, thank you so much, Hamilton, for handling that part. And the reason why I am also standing up is to re-emphasize our role as a university in terms of 3 pillars that we stand on. As you know, any university is responsible for teaching and learning, is responsible for research and innovation, which goes, of course, with internationalization, is responsible for community engagement. So those are the pillars in which any university in this country, at least the 26 publicly funded universities, are standing on. Now, zooming into us as a university of technology, we believe very strongly that universities at large, in particular universities of technology, are not monuments of elite. They exist to solve societal challenges, just like the one that you've just cited. Working together with our government, working together with private sector. In this example that Hamilton has pointed out, is us working with government to ensure then that we fulfill that. As a parting shot, any university has to have its global standing through our research, for instance, responding to SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. It has to have the national standing or the national standing, and that is through responding to the national priorities. So it is of paramount importance that as a university, we work very closely with our societies in trying to drive the innovation that is required in our societies. Of course, working together with our government, i.e. getting also the funding from them, and also with private sector. And the reason why this is of particular importance is because, as I said, universities are not monuments of elite. We need to find resonance in that which is existing in our societies too. So I like the question that came from you. By the way, that example that Hamilton is talking about is not just one. There are so many. You will find out that, for instance, at the Techno Station Electronics, they have a trailer which is funded by various funders. They would go to the communities with that trailer, train our very own people in, for instance, how to fix a fridge or how to fix a TV. And that is a skill that is being transferred to our people. And they even go further and give them certificates.
Yes.
So this is all about being relevant and ensuring that we have the impact that we ought to have. Someone said earlier on, it is not just to be at university, it's not just about the transfer of knowledge. I can go on and on with so many examples. If you go to Garankuwa, our technology station in chemicals, if you would see the types of projects that they are doing with unemployed youth there, again, funding from government in this case. And you look at the products that they have in those children. One time I was visiting there, I hope there's someone from Techno Station from Chemicals here. One time I was visiting there, I was told that one of the unemployed graduate who has been trained there has gone abroad to exhibit the work that she has learned there. Yeah.
Thank you so much. A university that makes knowledge work, eh? Most definitely. So, Mama, Tuso Udrei Greya, Dr. Hamilton, after the event, so that you talk some more on your ideas. Thank you so much. There's a question. Are you ready? Okay, there's a mic.
Hello, my name is Tidiso Mugwena. I'm doing second year in fashion. So I'm gonna ask Ditiromo about I heard about collaborations. So I'm still building my brand, also my logo, working on to register. So my question is, whenever I get a collaboration with big companies like maybe, let me see, Mr. Price or BMW, and then we agree on, maybe I sketch something down and then we agree, so like I can design that thing for them. Will IP be accountable in order to help me with the money I will charge that company? Because we all know that big companies are more like, they're gonna be like some complications when I have to charge them. Will I need to have my own lawyer, or IP will help me in order to help me with the maybe charges with that will I charge the big companies? Thanks very much.
Thank you for that question. If you are fortunate enough to have a family member, a neighbor, a church congregant, someone you know living next door who's a lawyer who can help you, then by all means include them in your contractual discussions. But from my experience, I didn't have a lawyer when I started out, and most of what I read, I had to Google. But we are in a country that so far I've seen is very fair. The big companies will come with their big lawyers and their big English and Italian and everything that will confuse you. But when it comes down to price, based on what you've created and the value that you've created, especially if you are working with a brand that is reputable, hence it's also important to do your research and find out what other designers or other creatives who have done a similar job with them have been paid. So, for instance, if I were to get an opportunity to collaborate with BMW, I would call Mam Esther Mahlangu and ask her, Mam, how much did they pay you for what you did? And then work around that bracket, because you might think that your product is worth 8,000 Rand, only to find that it's 800,000. based on them. So don't try not to also limit yourself in understanding or trying to understand what is going on the other side. Be open to negotiation, be open to learning, ask your peers who've been in that space, how much did they get? If you're fortunate, then they'll tell you that, oh no, this is how much I got for this design. But from really what I've seen, everyone is very open about how much we get paid, because that's actually how we hold these how we all hold these companies accountable. We can't work from a space where everybody kind of works in a silo. I know now most designers work in a silo and our prices are secret, but those secrets can kill you. You know, you might find that you are completely underpricing yourself, thinking that your value is here, but you're actually just, because you don't ask your neighbor how much they are charging for the very same thing. I remember years back, I don't know if they still do it, the price of a burger in New York, in Europe, in South Africa. That kind of also tells you that if you get a commission from a company that is based in the US, do not charge in rands. Don't do it. Okay? You will price in euros or in dollars. You will see that it is a substantial amount from what you can possibly charge in South Africa and what you might charge abroad. So yeah, I hope that answers you.
Very, very informative. Dr. Mpidi, there's a call that says this should be made a conference. A 2-day conference, because of the info that is valuable, really, and necessary for our people. I'm going to take one question, and then we're going to move to the fashion show, the fashion extravaganza that we've all been waiting for as well. Ma'am, you're recognized?
Hello, everyone. My name is Harvey Machacha, and I'm an artist. I'm currently studying fashion design at TUT Arts Campus. I have a question in relations to branding. So a few weeks ago, I was given a project to actually come up with the name of my brand and the logo. And I was actually excited to actually interact and be part of the project, because I've always known that I wanted to be Harvey. So in progression to the project, I came across a travel agency named Harvey. So I started doubting myself. So I want to know, how do you overcome the phase of doubt and the what ifs when it comes to identifying yourself and branding yourself? Thank you.
That's a very good question.
That's a wonderful question, and you're talking about branding, right? And then you came across a travel agency that's Harvey, right? When you register your logo and when you register your name, there are categories, right? There are categories. It'll say textile or either the food industry or whatever, right? So you do that research 360. And then when you go to agencies like the CIPC, they help with that. They do a much more thorough check for you. And then they'll tell you that there's Harvey, but it's in the car industry. So yes, they'll advise, maybe you can use Harvey because now you are in fashion. So they don't clash, right? And overcoming your fears and what ifs, it goes back to the why. It goes back to the why. If your why is strong enough, you'll get up and do it. That's all. Thank you.
So what he's saying is 100%. Another thing is, just take the risk. We're all going to die at some point. You know, you're still very young. Take the risk. Your story is going to contribute to other people's, So you need, Harvey, you get the travel agent and then you get you as a person. You know, make an impact from you, who you are. Don't listen to the doubts. That's just doubts. If it's there, then you're doing something right.
No, definitely. Before the fashion show, I'd like to really kindly ask our audience, our VIPs, our special guests, just in front to move to the second row, so that we have that seamless movement from the models. Iyaqala lento. and design. Wasn't that beautiful? Wow. Also, to just give a bit of background on that fashion show, I'd like to invite Ompile Matulo, who's a final year master's student from Design Studies, who's going to explain a bit more on what this was all about. A round of applause, please.
Thank you very much. With all the fun and excitement we have had, I think protocol still needs to be observed. I would like to start to say good afternoon to the Deputy Vice Chancellor for Research and Innovation and Engagement, Dr. Vatiswa Babu Zamkaka. Esteemed guests, colleagues, and students. What we've just seen is a collection from our second year students and alumni from the Department of Design Studies. Our fashion design students have just presented to us. Our fashion, okay, it happens, it's okay, let me just calm down. I think the excitement is a lot. The excitement is a lot, it's okay. All right. I'd like to start by saying creative thinking is an example of artistry and design education that needs focus on fashion and innovation. The Black Collection showcased today presents our students' ability to draw inspiration from their rich cultural heritage found in South Africa. Students' creativity is influenced by many factors. Firstly, creative consciousness. Secondly, innovative thinking. Thirdly, professional skills. The emergence of inspiration for the collection that we've just seen was not based on imagination, but on the continuous analysis and research of existing information. Innovation, technology, and fashion education on intellectual property will inspire further original designs and entrepreneurship amongst our students. I would like to conclude by asking a pertinent question to the students present here. How can intellectual property be used to capture the value in the African fashion design industry? Thank you very much.
Please remember that name. Her name is Ompile Matola, and she's our final year master's student from Design Studies. A round of applause for her. I'd like now to invite one of my favorite human beings ever. Her name is Prof. Vanessa Naidu. She's a professor at the Tshwane School for Business and Society here at the Tshwane University of Technology. She was also my master's supervisor. There's a lot of knowledge from this specific professor. So she'll be here to give the vote of thanks. Over to you, Professor. Round of applause, please.
To our DVC, Dr. Vatiswa Papu Zamkaka, I tried, and to our senior colleagues here, and to our students, ladies and gentlemen, it is such an honor for me to do the vote of thanks. This World Intellectual Property Celebration Day, this remarkable event would not have been possible without some very key people here. And firstly, our DVC, Dr. Vatiswa. Let us just scream and shout and celebrate this time. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you, ma'am. And with her comes her very, very competent research, innovation, and engagement team, the entire team. Let's give them a round of applause. Secondly, corporate affairs and marketing works hand in hand with every function event at TUT. And that is under the leadership of Ms. Brenda Watson. Can we give a round of applause to Brenda and her team? You're doing well, fabulously well. Thank you. Now, to our guest speakers. Wow, wow, wow. That's all I can say. Ms. Datiro Mashiho, alumni, presently a student of TUT, our future research graduate. Did you all find her a future-ready graduate? Absolutely, absolutely. Ma'am, when you stood here and spoke as our alumni, as our graduate, I was in awe. Being a lecturer here, we love what we saw. I loved what I saw. A very steadfast, very informative, very highly informative, I would say, and a strong young woman from TUT. Let's give her a huge round of applause. Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Yogini Reddy, our senior associate of Spoor and Fisher. I don't want to say anything wrong because you are admitted attorney, so legal action may come. But I think your presentation was overly insightful and informative, which we really needed right now. Thank you for your time, for spending time with us and just sharing that presentation and just engaging with us. I think many questions got at your door, but you handled it very well. And we're very honored that you could be here with us today. Give a round of applause to Ms. Yogini Reddy. Ms. Tabang Khadebe, I want to look at you when I talk to you. Founder and CEO of Tabang Art Photography. What a dynamic CEO. She spoke straight from the heart, so genuine, and so much information and tips to our up-and-coming students up here. Don't you all agree, ladies and gentlemen? Give her a very loud round of applause. Thank you, Ms. Khadebe. Offense, in Commissie, our face dresser. I want to tell you today, you make people beautiful, but today you were beautiful. He spoke also from the heart, and he really touched us in his story as well. You don't have to be anything than who you truly are. And I think we learned that. We learned that. And then finally, for our models, fashionistas, Weren't they awesome? Let's give them a round of applause. And another round of applause, please. And you see, they don't look, they just go like this. Ah, I love that. Thank you to Prof. Nalini Mudlidia, our Dean of the Faculty of Arts, our models, our students, our academics within the Faculty of Arts and Design, and also to our Ms. Ompele, Matola. Thank you for that expatiation of what y'all did. Well done, and a hearty applause again to them. And now we cannot forget our director of ceremonies. Oh, why? Ms. Papama Shishikawe. And it's a very difficult surname, but I learned to do it properly over the years, being a supervisor. The most hardworking, dynamic, and solid young ladies I've ever had the opportunity to supervise. Give her a very big round of applause. Thank you. There may be someone that has really helped, and I had forgotten you by name. Please accept from the entire team heartfelt appreciation, gratitude, and just to say a very special thank you to you. Last but not least, to you out here, this function will not be possible if you all weren't here and make it as exciting as it is. Give yourselves a round of applause. With that, I just want to say TUT makes knowledge work. And our graduates are future-ready graduates. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. She's Prof. Vanessa Naidu, the professor at the Tshwane School for Business and Society here at the Tshwane University of Technology. I'd like to invite Dr. Vatiswa just here in front to hand over, obviously, the gifts and for a photo. I hope our photographer is ready there for a photo session with the speaker as we hand over the gifts. I think for starters, I'd like to invite Ms. Ditiro Mashiko. Thank you so much, ma'am. A round of applause. And Ms. Yogani Reddy, Senior Associate, Sport and Fisher. A small token of our appreciation also goes to Ms. Tabang Radebe, Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Tabang Art Photography. Last but not least, the Offensive Committee Founder and Chief Executive Officer, Offensive, the Face dresser. Thank you so much, DVC. Thank you very much for that. I would like to just not invite anybody in front, but also thank, the man behind it all, also Dr. Mpidi there at the back. And also the team that had sleepless nights on this. I know Dibuseng is already standing, so Lufuno, please. Dibu, we call her Miss D. And of course, the AV team there, behind the cameras. And I'm told that, the fashion show is a trailer to our TUT Innovation Awards. That was beautiful. So thank you so much for that. Now we're gonna, that exciting time once again, lunch. But I'd like to thank, each and every one of you for gracing us with your presence, for participating more than anything. This was the Tshwane University of Technology World Intellectual Property Day Celebration 2023. So we can't wait to see you once again next year when we go big, even more bigger than what it is today. But we'd like to say thank you so much. And also to our online audience that has come in numbers, to witness the great minds of our African people. So thank you so much. My name is Papama Chisikawe, and I'm the spokesperson of the Tshwane University of Technology. It's been a pleasure being with you. Thank you so much. Now, Dr. Mpidi will lead the VIPs, our speakers. Okay, before that, I would like to invite our speakers just again in front with the DVC for a photo session. And then later they'll be joined by the models just for a photo session just behind the media banner there. And after that, we will part for lunch. And the guest speakers will be served under the tents just behind the auditorium. And also we will join the others as well. But thank you so much. The speakers, photo session. I wish, while that is taking place, there would be a song playing. AV, can you make that happen for us in the background? That is. But thank you so much. A round of applause to all of you. Thank you.